sagebrush on the property, and that's a few different types of brush that grow out here. So most any little brush that grows out here on the high desert we call sagebrush, although it's a few different varieties of brush. And then any weed that'll break off and go tumbling, we call it a tumbleweed. So when you hear those terms, they're not really too exact, but that's what's accepted. More sagebrush of different kind. This is in bloom. This bunch grass is really great cattle and horse feed. When there was about 100 head of wild horses in this area, of course the area is huge, they kept this bunch grass eaten down pretty good. They just move in here and lunch up on it. There are different types of grass in different areas out here, but anyway, now they'll the big ranch here will run cattle in here in the late winter, and this is a dry enough area that probably they can't expect any snow to happen here, and so they don't have to feed hay, and they can eat this bunch grass, and it's really strong grass. It really puts the weight on the cattle. So any bush that grows out here, we'll call it sagebrush, and any plant that grows out here that gets sort of a round shape and dislodges from its roots, and then the wind blows it, we'll call that a tumbleweed. There'll be lots of feed for the cattle here this winter, even though it's been a super dry summer. It looks like this bunch grass has done pretty well, so the big ranch can put their cattle out here and fatten them well. And so they keep cowboys out here to move these cattle, because that big a herd of cattle really eats a lot of grass. We can see little trails all through the desert here that critters always go in the same path. It looks like a lot of jackrabbit tracks, and they've just hopped over this bunch grass here. It looks like they've munched on it some, and then the ground squirrels use the same path. Some pretty good sagebrush here, and in certain areas some of this sagebrush can be over 100 years old. This soil is super good here. It grows really good alfalfa and a few other crops when you can get water on it. And there was one guy had some property out here, and he decided it was good potato soil. So he planted about 100 acres of potatoes out here in an area not a whole long ways from here. And anyway, the potatoes seemed to do pretty good, but when he went to dig them, they were just very small potatoes, because the altitude here is really quite high, and so they weren't like the big Idaho bakers like the market calls for. They were very small potatoes, so you would have a hard time selling small potatoes, although that's what I prefer, but I guess the market doesn't. And I've been hoping the smoke would clear where we could see the Steens Mountains, but it looks like it's not going to, and so we don't have forever to stay here either. There's where the jackrabbits and the ground squirrels hop around. And the road that comes in here is just a small 2-track road, and so not many people venture back here. We keep everything cleared out in the yard area except for a sagebrush or two, which we've left deliberately just for the landscape value of it. If you're in sagebrush country, you need a sagebrush or two, but we keep the other stuff cleared out just so we don't have to worry that much about wildfires. But we never build a fire here at all. I'd be really nervous to build a campfire out here in this sea of sagebrush. We have a variety of different evening primroses that grow here and have a real beauty of a flower on them. And some of them are perennials, so this one has really nice blooms, and when it stops blooming, if we're here at that time, we'll just pour a little water on it, and then the next day they're great big beautiful blooms. And this is the seeds of this plant is one of the staple foods for the ground squirrels, although it's the antelope ground squirrels that live here, although the primroses haven't done well in the drought, so I don't know. The ground squirrels, there's plenty of other seeds they can eat. We throw them out a few peanuts once in a while, hopefully not enough to, because we're not here that much, enough to get them addicted to them, or that can be really bad on a ground squirrel if they learn to depend on something like this. Years ago I built this picnic table for out here, and I built it out of some western red cedar. Our neighbor had a tree go down and he gave me the log, and so we sawed it into some nice lumber, and it makes an excellent sturdy picnic table. And I got the blueprints from it off the internet. I just googled up blueprints for picnic tables, and it doesn't matter how many people just sit on one side or what, it never tips over, so it's a very good picnic table. There's an old tumbleweed from last year that's got lodged there and stopped its journey of tumbling right there. Looks as if there's an old badger's hole here. It's an old one, and they dig a lot of holes around because their main source of food is ground squirrels. They dig them up and eat them. Earlier in the year, some of these puddles have water in them, and so when there's water here, then we have the pronghorn or antelope that run around here. We see a lot of them early in the spring out here, but this time of year the water's all dried up, and they like to be where there's water. Although wild horses like water too, but they can travel from where they feed. They can travel 20 miles to water, and I'm not certain about the antelope how far they can travel, but I don't think they like to go over 5 miles to water. From the looks of these tracks, an old coyote must have got awful excited and been in an awful big hurry. running across here recently. Here's tracks of where an old antelope's been, and it doesn't look as though it's been too long ago. He was running all around here. No, after looking at that track carefully, I believe that was an old mule deer. And anyway, the way you would tell a difference in the tracks, the antelope have the dew claw. The antelope have no dew claw, where the mule deer have dew claws. And one of the reasons antelope have evolved without dew claws is because they're runners. They're the fastest long-distance runner in the world, and so they have no dew claw just so they can run faster, or mule deer do. And the mule deer are a little larger than the antelope, so I'm thinking this is mule deer tracks, and they love the desert too, and being out in the desert, the antelope have to water each and every day, and after every big run, where the mule deer can make it really good for a week out in the desert without water. So they're more adapted to the desert than antelope, which is rather surprising. Looks as if those old mule deer, there's a few of them here, and it looks as if they've been here right recently. And here's another bunny trail where our little resident jackrabbit has been going in a straight line out across the desert. Here's an old tin can that some cowboy stopped and opened this and had his dinner here. And I don't know how long ago that's been. It looks like it's been a while. Okay, we'll go.
Please don't dip.
We're getting ready for our next adventure. Are you ready?
Yep, and I'm gonna lock up.
Okay.
You ready? Let's go.
Oh, here comes some assholes.
Okay. Here we go. Down on the playa. It looks like somebody else is out here on the playa too.
Unusual.
On a motorbike. Okay, there's somebody else coming.
Can you hold this?
On a motorbike too.
We found an old World War II exploded practice bomb here on this playa. There are a few of them around, and people have shot holes in it later, but it's still here. Another old exploded World War II bomb. There's another old exploded bomb. This is one of the rocks that slide across the desert and make a trail, and that thing has slid for miles.
Go ahead, I'll tell
The
it.
rock right here it's one of those rocks that slide across the Playa, and like the racetrack in Death Valley, and that one a few years ago moved. It doesn't move every year, but it.
This is a fin?
That's the fins, one of the fins off the old bomb.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll put it back and
There.
we'll go. I hope people leave these here. They're an important reminder of our history. Take a picture of this old Pony Express station ruins. And anyway, this apparently the BLM built this fence around it to preserve it somewhat, and the upper wires are barbs in them, and then the twisted thing that goes down between the wires, they call that a fence stay to help hold it. And so the bottom one has no barbs, because antelope definitely have the ability to jump a fence, but they won't do it. They'll crawl under, and so without the barbs on it, it doesn't tear them up. And here's where the ruins of the old Pony Express station stood. It's local native stones it was made of, and double row with mud for mortar between the two rows, and mud for mortar between each stone. But as soon as the roof fell in, then the mud started dissolving with the snows and rains and moistures. But once
The Pony Express lasted for 18 months, April 1860 to October 1861. And in October, they decided that it was obsolete. And then the riders took an oath to not use any profane language, drink no intoxicating liquor, and not to quarrel or fight with any fellow employees. And they delivered 35,000 pieces of mail for more than 500,000 miles across the American frontier. And they switched horses every 10 to 15 miles, and it only took them 2 minutes to change horses. And the cost to deliver the mail was $5 for every half ounce, the equivalent of some $130 today. Later, it got reduced to just $1, but still remained too high for everyday mail. The Pony Express stations had more Indian attacks more frequently than any of the riders. The riders were the size of racing jockeys, and there were over 100 stations. This whole thing cost $70,000. There is historical documentations that 4 pony riders were killed by Indians. One was hanged for murder after he got drunk and killed a man. One died in an unrelated accident, and 2 froze to death.
William Buffalo Bill Cody claimed to have been a Pony Express rider, and he claimed to have rode have ridden a record number of miles, but there's no record of that, so history kind of thinks that he was embellishing that, although he did a lot for promoting the nostalgia of the Pony Express by having it in his Wild West shows every single time.
In May 1860, Robert Pony Bob took off on the most legendary ride in Pony Express history. The 20-year-old was scheduled to make his usual 75-mile run from Friday Station east to Buckland Station in Nevada. Upon arriving in Buckland, however, he found that his relief rider was petrified of the Paiute Indians who had been attacking stations along the route. When the other man refused to take the mail, Pony Bob jumped back in the saddle and rode on, eventually completing a 190-mile run before delivering his knapsack at Smith Creek. After a brief rest, he mounted a fresh horse and retraced his steps all the way back to Friday Station, at one point passing a relay outpost that had been burned by the Paiutes. By the time he finally returned to his home station, Pony Bob had traveled 380 miles in less than 40 hours, a Pony Express record.
We're at Willow Creek Hot Springs, and we see this this really neat camper here painted up with leaves and stuff, and the people are from Germany. Where'd you live in Germany then?
In Ruppolding, Bavaria.
Bavaria,
Yeah, Ruppolding, Bavaria.
And you come over here every year for...
enjoying the great outdoors.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Hot springs and landscape, animals,
yeah.
and nice people.
Yeah. Yeah, not much like this kind of landscape in Germany.
No, it's too crowded and not too much open space and everything.
And so
you like it here.
You painted all these leaves and fronds.
Yeah. I got a few spray cans.
Yeah.
Yellow, green, red.
Yeah.
And then I put some dots on the white surface. Holding a leaf over and spray with white over.
So those are from real leaves then?
These are real leaves. Maple and
fern fronds and
some other leaves.
Wow, that is really...
I grabbed out of the woods. I was collecting a few, then decided to...
Right, yeah, that's very nice.
I call it's a friendly camouflage.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Showing nature.
So, did you help with it too, Marga?
Well, I did help mainly collecting the leaves.
Oh, yeah.
I went out, brought bushes and ferns, and I think there is oak in it and grasses. And, after a while, like 2-3 times spraying over so they're getting kind of limp, then you need a new
you need
leaf.
A new leaf at that point. And just down here, kind of in the smoky clouds and stuff, is Denio Peak, and we all went up to the bomber crash up there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's some...
that was another story.
2013, I think it was.
Yeah, but it's still on my video if anyone would like to see that. It's the B24 crash.
B24 crash.
Yeah. I need to get a picture of the canoe on the other side.
Okay.
And there's their canoe with sort of matching paint. Very nice. We're here looking for Oregon State Gemstone, and it looks like there are plenty of them here. All those little sparkly things on the ground are these sunstones, and they are Oregon State Gemstone. we've rigged up these, we just duct taped
Spoons.
a serving spoon onto a walking stick, and that way you don't have to stoop over all the time. You just scoop them up with that. Show us how you do it. She's only picking up the big ones.
Find a nice big one. Just scoop him up.
Oh, there's two nice
Here,
sizes.
there's one here. And then there's all of these little chips right here.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at all the chips.
Yeah.
There seem to be a lot.
There's a nice one there.
Look at here. Look how big it is.
Wow. That's big enough for the queen's crown. The ants have even decorated their anthill with sunstones. Here's where an antelope's been, and they've tried to cover their droppings. They haven't developed that quite well enough yet, like a cat. There's our sunstones laid out. That's mine. And this is Marge's. Marge really loves jewelry, and particularly these sunstones, and we sent them to a island over in the Indian Ocean called Sri Lanka, and they make all sorts of different facet shapes, just any kind of shape you can think of they make. So she has a variety of them made, and it looks like she's needing to send some more over and get them faceted. And one thing for the record, she never sells any of them. She needs all of them she can find.